there is a providence in the universe that rules as well. And his language is the event. At a moment in time, the weather ruled the waves, and with it history, specifically that of the society of Jesus, as yet not fully born. The band of friends of Inigo, St. Ignatius, were there in Florence, planning to do all kinds of things for the Lord together, actually far away from where they were. Venice is a key place on the waters, and it seemed that they hoped to conquer bits of missionary territory for the Lord over the seas. But the weather wasn't favourable, and so they waited, and still the weather wasn't favourable. They waited, and the weather wasn't favourable. And so they changed course and went nearer home, down a bit to Rome, and as a band presented themselves to the reigning pontiff. They were to be entirely at his service, which would explain the fourth vow, which after a second novitiate, the future superiors take of obedience directly to the Pope. And it was questioned in the 80s, but St. John Paul II, who knew the importance of the order, insisted that it be maintained. He took a great interest in this order because of its magnitude and its power. It had become the most numerous of all the orders, 35,000. And he was keen that it should remain faithful. We have in the history of the Society of Jesus a noble army of saints, many actually linked with the English mission, as well as, of course, those to other new parts of the Christian world. It was a whole underground for Jesus. Providentially, years ago, I read the very moving diary of Father Gerard as part of the underground. Torture, torture, torture. I was moved when I looked at the Tower of London not long ago. That's where it all happened. We do well to take seriously what they took seriously. It is well to be courteous and polite to our brethren, whoever they be who believe in Jesus Christ and love and worship him. But the truth is either true or not true. The Lord is either present or not present in the Blessed Sacrament. No matter how courteous we are, we must not tell half-truths. These Jesuits knew it. In some parts of the world, the Jesuits are not doing so well today with regard to recruiting. Before, they used to do very well. But we need to ask, what is going to happen? The Lord, we see, does send vocations there where, with that same fervour and fidelity, he is honoured and worshipped and preached. When we only want Jesus and want to have him given as he is and not as we think he should be, then he can reign. The Jesuits were keen on having this notion of the reign of God, the claims of God upon the creature. It was a moment in history when the mould of the old monastic orders was being cracked, and in its place was being given a new mould without exteriors, but very much able to be the equivalent thereof, in a situation where there would be no exteriors. It was that of fashioning the will. The whole thrust of Ignatian spirituality is a labour in depth on the will and the mind. Hence it is that they had and still have a 2-year vocation period when the Lord is made to reign. The candidate is given over completely in the novitiate in those 2 years, and afterwards actually they had perpetual vows already. And then in that, the deep work of surrendering the will and the understanding and the mind, through working also on the reason and the imagination, was total. That then gave an army to the church. The mind was cultivated over a long period of education, and ordination was deferred, giving much time for study. And the result was that at the end of a long period of formation, these candidates were handed over the whole will to Jesus in the superior, were like torpedoes ready to be fired in any direction. Their will no longer existed, they could be fired. And they were so powerful that some rulers in Europe were a bit nervous. They knew how to hit hard, forming future monarchs and nobles. They were able to speak the language of the world and were able to influence the world by giving not less but more than what the world had to offer in brilliance and culture, all anchored in grace. Take away the anchoring in grace, and we have only the human. That is no longer divine, and the Lord is not free to bless it. Interestingly enough, we had in our own times a phenomenon which did have some similarities for a while in the very numerous legionaries of Christ who did something similar by taking people very young and working on all levels of their being. That, however, is a different story. What we do need to be aware of is this. It is only the absolute that attracts the young, truly. They do not actually want a watered-down version of anything. The youth is generous and idealistic, and if taken in the full flow of the Holy Spirit and of its grace, then they can actually be harnessed. Put them away, put them back, defer them, and give them something which should be more interesting for them, and the results will be what we see. Pretty meagre. With regard to the way that they actually discern and recruit classically, it still works. A long period, a whole month, separated from anything human, with conditions maximally orientated towards openness to the Spirit, and that Spirit can come in when the candidate is placed before eternal truths, which show what he is here for and how long he is here for, and where he is going or not going. It is discernment. The Lord is still calling. How can he get through to souls who only have bleeps and buzzes, noises of all sorts from morning until night, and indeed throughout the night? He needs that same period of access, and it can be done, and it needs to be done if there is a lifelong question.